The atmosphere was dense, vibrating with expectation. His gaze was unwavering, filled with intensity. He had exercised restraint for long enough, but that time had come to an end. I pivoted, locking gazes with him. He was fully engaged now. I raised my fingers, a subtle beckoning. His breath hitched, tension coursed through him, and then he rose to his feet. Before we dive in, I'd appreciate it if you could take a moment to like this video and subscribe. It's complimentary, requires just a moment, and provides more assistance than you realize. Additionally, you'll always be in the loop for the next narrative. Let's dive in. His hands settled on my waist, drawing me near as our bodies swayed in unison. Each deep breath and every delicate movement enveloped my skin in a warm embrace of lingering energy. "Please, don't stop," I whispered, my voice scarcely a whisper. The tension between us escalated, hanging in the air until my body finally surrendered and melted against his. He exhaled gently, drawing me nearer as we embraced the serene solace of the moment. For a moment, we simply rested, the heat shared between us remaining palpable. His fingers moved in gentle circles across my back, his chest rising and falling in a rhythmic cadence. Yet, there was an unmistakable quality to the silence that seemed altered. I tilted my head just a bit, observing him closely. "You seem to be quite reserved." He released a gentle laugh, lost in thought. I smiled slyly, allowing my fingers to lightly touch his skin. "What is it about?" His moment of doubt was subtle, yet I perceived it. That was truly remarkable. I chuckled gently, nestling against him. Indeed, it was. My fingers wandered aimlessly, creating delicate designs across his skin. "Have you ever considered how it could be improved further?" His breath caught momentarily. "Improved?" I leaned on one elbow, observing him intently. Adventure has always been in our nature. What if we pushed the boundaries even more? His body tightened, if only for a fleeting moment. It was understated, yet I perceived it. That only intensified my curiosity. "Come on," I urged, tilting my head. "I understand you have considered it." Our eyes locked, a spark dancing in the depths of his gaze. A moment of stillness. After a prolonged breath, he finally began to speak. "There is something," he confessed, his voice barely above a whisper. I raised an eyebrow, a sense of excitement twisting within me. "Share with me." He swept his fingers through his hair. "I wish for you to encounter something unique." I blinked. "Distinct?" His lips parted, as though he were selecting his words with great deliberation. "Ultimately, yes, but not another individual. A lady." The phrases lingered in the space between us, heavy and palpable. I gulped, my heartbeat racing. The warm swelling within me left me questioning whether it stemmed from anxiety or something far more perilous. I parted my lips, yet silence enveloped me, as uncertainty clouded my emotions. The thought lingered in my mind, refusing to fade away. It wrapped around my thoughts, infiltrating my mind at the most unexpected moments. Reclining in bed, navigating my morning rituals, even as I attempted to concentrate on other matters. His words ignited a feeling within me that I couldn't overlook. Initially, it seemed utterly ridiculous. This was an idea I had never contemplated before. The thought of being with another woman, particularly under his gaze, ought to have been simple to disregard. However, it was not the case. The more I pondered, the less peculiar it appeared. A sense of wonder emerged, subtle yet unwavering. The notion itself had a way of sticking around. It was the way he gazed at me, the way it could alter everything between us. Could it? The question hung in the air longer than I cared to acknowledge. Uncertainties lingered at the periphery of my enthusiasm. What if I followed through and found it too enjoyable? What if it changed his perception of me? What if it changed my perspective on who I am? It was as if I was entering a realm of uncertainty, an experience that eluded my complete understanding. And yet, beneath the ambiguity, another force began to awaken. A subtle excitement, the sort that remained with me whenever it crossed my mind. It was evident that this was his desire. And if I were truthful with myself, I longed to discover the sensation of granting him his desires. Though the uncertainty lingered, it couldn't deter my resolve. I intended to follow through with it. I was uncertain about the method and the individuals involved, Yet there was one truth I held firmly in my mind. This had transcended mere imagination. At that moment, it belonged to me as well. The subsequent days unfolded in a haze. I reminded myself to keep it simple and not dwell too much on it. I had come to my conclusion. Yet, as I proceeded, the excitement only intensified. Each look exchanged, each fleeting brush of skin intensified the thrill of the moment. I wasn't merely acquiescing to his imagination. I was seizing the reins of it. Once I had everything in place, the nerves faded away, giving way to a rush of exhilaration. The ideal individual, the opportune moment, the flawless method to disclose it. Now, it was time to observe his response. That morning, as we lay in bed, I turned to face him, my fingers gently exploring the contours of his skin. He lingered in a state of drowsiness, his breath calm and rhythmic, oblivious to the tempest rising within me. I leaned in, my tone gentle yet resolute. "Please ensure you arrive home by 8 this evening. There are no inquiries. Simply have faith in me." His eyes fluttered open, a relaxed grin playing on his lips. "What's going on at 8? I locked eyes with him, maintaining the connection just long enough for intrigue to take root. "Just wait and see." His brows arched ever so slightly, yet I could sense the curiosity beginning to captivate him. He felt the urge to inquire further, yet he understood me well enough to sense when I was resolute in my silence. Finally, he spoke, stretching as he let out a breath. "I will be present." Excellent. By tonight, his dream would transform into reality. The evening arrived sooner than I had anticipated. I encountered him at the entrance, my heartbeat calm. Yet, just below the surface, a quiet hum stirred within me. A sense of expectancy, a flutter of anxiety, an indescribable feeling lingering in the air. He was unaware of what lay ahead, and that uncertainty added to the thrill of the moment. His brow arched subtly as I grasped his hand, conveying nothing beyond a shared understanding through my smile. "Follow me," I whispered, guiding him along the corridor. The door stood slightly open, a soft glow spilling into the corridor. As we crossed the threshold, a palpable change enveloped us, the atmosphere crackling with anticipation, heavy with unspoken promises. And then he laid eyes on her. She sat waiting, elegantly perched on the edge of the bed, her stance relaxed yet assured, exuding a sense of belonging that was unmistakable. Her eyes darted over him for a moment before locking onto me, an enigmatic glimmer passing through her gaze. I noticed the deliberate breath my husband drew in, observed the subtle tension that coursed through his body. He wasn't merely observing, he was taking in every nuance, contemplating the significance of it all, anticipating what was on the verge of unfolding. And then she shifted. Her fingers grazed my wrist first, a mere whisper of contact, then moved higher, gliding up my arm, intentional and playful. I instinctively turned toward her, captivated, my breath hitching as her hands glided over my skin. This held a distinct quality, fresh and uncharted, yet utterly captivating. The initial kiss was gentle, unhurried, a careful exploration, a shy connection of lips, probing before evolving into something deeper. My body reacted instinctively, leaning into her touch as my hands naturally found their place on her waist, savoring the warmth of her skin beneath my fingertips. A soft breath escaped from behind me, measured and deliberate, yet unmistakable. I didn't need to glance back to sense his gaze, to understand that he was experiencing every moment of this just as intensely as I was. We lingered, relishing the gradual unfolding. Her hands glided with intent, slipping beneath the fabric, leading me gradually into a realm of deeper sensations. Each touch ignited a wave of warmth within me, the gradual unfolding of discovery causing me to tremble. And then she stepped forward, guiding the way. Her lips departed from mine, following a measured, intentional route, relishing each caress. The feeling of my shirt slipping away barely registered, as fingers brushed lightly against my newly revealed skin. Each motion was deliberate and smooth, as though she was in perfect harmony with my every reaction. Her lips brushed against my collarbone initially, then descended, following the contour of my torso with intentional precision. My breath caught as she navigated with deliberate grace, the feeling sending tingles through my body. A gentle, lingering brush against my hip sent a thrill coursing through me, my body responding without thought. The moment unfolded with a deliberate grace, each second stretching into a tapestry of expectation, a simmering intensity that left me breathless. And then her touch became more deliberate. A wave of warmth enveloped me, causing my breath to falter. My breath became erratic, each movement pulling me deeper, enveloped in the sensations surrounding me. Her rhythm flowed seamlessly, a consistent tempo that layered upon itself, each intentional movement holding me captive in the experience. A sound emanated from the far side of the room, low and strained, cutting through the haze. I turned my head slightly, my vision blurring at the edges, and there he was, my husband. He remained in the chair, though just on the edge of it. His hands clutched the arms firmly, his chest rising and falling with deliberate control. His eyes were fixed on me, his face a mask of mystery, yet every detail about him, his stance, the tightness in his frame, communicated so much more. He was struggling to maintain his composure. The atmosphere was dense, laden with a silent comprehension. He was no longer merely an observer. He was entangled in this as deeply as I was. Our eyes locked, and I extended my fingers toward him, the gesture subtle yet intentional. It was merely an invitation, a subtle recognition that his presence held significance alongside all else in this moment. His hands relaxed, his body coiled with anticipation, and then, at last, he rose to his feet. As he advanced, the atmosphere in the room transformed. The moment he approached, I sensed it, the palpable weight of his presence, the warmth radiating from his skin. His hands settled on my waist, fingers pressing in gently, igniting a subtle thrill within me. As I glanced upward, I found his gaze locked onto mine, deep and penetrating, brimming with an unexpressed emotion. Then his lips pressed against mine. The kiss lingered, rich with unspoken emotions, a gentle tug, a serene yielding. I surrendered to his embrace, enveloped by his warmth as his hands glided along my back. "Thank you," he whispered, his voice soft against my lips. A chill coursed through me, not merely from his words, but from the manner in which he delivered them. It felt as if this moment encapsulated all his desires, and then she shifted. A subtle movement on the bed, her presence palpable even before I turned to look. She observed him, observing us, a gradual, understanding smile gracing her lips. Her gaze held no hesitation, no uncertainty. It radiated quiet confidence as she leaned in, fingers gliding over his stomach, descending lower, until a sharp exhale escaped him. I remained transfixed as she traced kisses along his body, her fingers wandering, playful in their exploration. My lips lingered on his, my fingers entwined in his hair, sensing the subtle shiver that coursed through him. His breath came in deeper, more measured draws, his body responding to each subtle shift she made. His fingers gripped my back more firmly as she became increasingly absorbed, a low sound escaping from his throat. His breath hitched as it brushed against my lips. His reaction sparked an intense energy within me, the way his body tightened, the way his fingers gripped my hips as if he sought something to anchor himself. It was mesmerizing to observe, to sense his response to each deliberate motion, each change in his breath, and then I flowed with her. I let my kisses wander down his jawline, gliding along his neck, sensing the warmth of his pulse under my lips. Lower still, until I found myself beside her, our movements intertwining in a quiet comprehension. His head tilted back, breaths coming in uneven waves, completely immersed in the shared moment. Each sound he produced ignited a new surge of warmth within me, intensifying the experience and drawing me further into it. The tension emanated from him, his hands tightly clutching the sheets. However, our journey was far from over. A transition, a movement to a new place. She lay on the bed now, beneath me, her breath warm against my skin. Her hands directed me, positioning me just so, a quick breath escaping my lips as she started. My fingers intertwined with the sheets as waves of sensation coursed through me. Gentle, tantalizing caresses, pulling me deeper, causing my head to tilt back. And then the heaviness of his form pressing against hers, the profound breath that escaped his lips as he advanced with purpose. A soft gasp slipped from her lips, her breath catching against my skin. I sensed each movement around me, his essence firm, unwavering. The power of it was unmistakable. His hands anchored her, each movement eliciting a response within me. The warmth of her breath, the gentle touch of her hands, the soft caress of her lips upon my skin. The experience overwhelmed me, a heady blend of feelings that quickened my heartbeat. Yet it was he who unraveled me, the intensity of his gaze upon me. His eyes met mine, deep and weighty with fervor. Each motion he executed sent a thrill coursing through us both. Yet it was how he maintained his gaze, how he extended his hand toward me. His fingers glided over my skin, his lips enveloping mine. That was what brought me to my knees entirely. My body tightened, my breath halted, and the feeling washed over me in surges. I had company. He let out a low groan, his fingers clenching, his body quaking as the moment enveloped him. His voice hung in the air, deep and gravelly, uttering my name. Then there was silence. His forehead rested against mine, his breath lingering in an unsteady rhythm. A leisurely, contented breath escaping from his mouth. A soft, airy chuckle escaped my lips, my fingers remaining entwined in the fabric of the sheets. I tilted my head just enough, my lips grazing his ear softly. Joyful. His arms enveloped me, drawing me near as he placed a soft, lingering kiss on my shoulder. Beyond your understanding. Certain reflections remain hidden for eternity. But what if the finest ones are destined to become reality? Have you ever harbored a hidden desire that you kept to yourself? What transpired when you ultimately shared it? Share your thoughts in the comments. I have gone through each and every one, and I am eager to find out. Before you leave, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe. It's complimentary, quick, and ensures you stay updated with the latest narrative. Activate the notification bell to be the first to discover when a new one is released. If this resonated with you, pass it along to someone who might appreciate it as well. Thank you for tuning in. Until next time.